Check, check, test, 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 test.
Yeah, so I mean, and.
Test, test, 1, 2, check, check. Check, check, test, test. Hey, how are you?
I feel like before they're big secret. Yeah. But I don't know. You need a pen? Question? Oh, no, I'm not. Okay. So. You know what? Yeah.
Not many, it took a class like 3 months ago. Yeah, so I saw it. Mine's like somewhat. I'm still in the program. Yeah, working my way through. But not
If you want to say, then
Not into weird like video interview.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon and welcome to the Deputy Chancellor Provost Candidate Forums. My name is Aaron Brown, Vice Chancellor of Business and Financial Services, also the chair of the search committee and today's facilitator, along with Graciela from HR. As part of our district-wide search process, each of our colleges is hosting open forums with the 3 finalists for this very important leadership position. These forums are being live streamed so that those who cannot attend can also participate. After an extensive national search process facilitated by the Association of Community College Trustees, ACCT, the RCCD Search Committee carefully screened 40 applicants, conducted semifinalist interviews, and forwarded 3 finalists for you to meet. The Chancellor will also be conducting final interviews with each of the candidates. In addition to these forums, the finalists will be meeting with constituency group leaders and the Chancellor's cabinet to ensure a broad and inclusive process that reflects the voices of our entire district. Your participation is essential. Your input is valuable and important as the Chancellor is going to review the feedback that he receives from these forums and consider it all the perspectives that are provided by our community in making this final critical decision. So thank you for being here and for engaging in this process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Graciela.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Brown. How's everybody doing today? It's good to see you all. Thank you so much for coming out and for being here. Before we formally welcome our first candidate to Riverside City College, let me take a minute to review the ground rules for the public forums. So we will ask the candidate to provide brief opening remarks, roughly about 3 to 4 minutes. We have 2 general questions that have been prepared to facilitate the session while we get those index cards coming up. If you would like to ask the candidate a question, we ask that you please write your question on a note card. And one of our room facilitators, we have Claudia and also Jonica, will bring it up to the stage, up to me, so that we can ask those questions. And then 5 minutes before the end of the session, we'll keep an eye on time. We'll ask the candidate to provide brief closing remarks. When you entered the room, you were also given a public forum sheet. We ask for you to complete the form before you leave the room, as we won't be able to accept them afterwards. But we do want to state the importance of these forms. These forms will be collected and placed in a confidential envelope for our Chancellor so that they can be included in his deliberations. And we'll have Vice Chancellor Brown come back up and introduce our candidate.
So thank you. Dr. Star Rivera-Lacey currently serves as a superintendent of Palomar College, leading one of California's largest single college districts. With more than 25 years in the community college system, she has driven major advancements in fiscal stability, structural innovation, and equity-focused strategic planning. Her leadership has expanded workforce-aligned programs, modernized facilities, and embedded DEIA principles across campus operations. She's a first-generation college student and daughter of Salvadorian immigrants. Dr. Rivera-Lacey holds a PhD in education from Claremont Graduate University and was named Woman of the Year by California State Assembly District 76 in 2025. With that, I welcome her and join me in welcoming her up to the stage. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Thank you for being here. I know that all of you have email that's piling up, and students have a lot of homework piling up as well. So I really do appreciate you being part of the process, and also for such a very warm welcome. The lunch was fantastic too, so thank you. So again, my name is Dr. Star Estrella Rivera-Lacey, and I am very, very happy to be here with you today. My goal is that over the next hour, you'll get a better sense of who I am and my leadership style, in addition to my qualifications for that. So I really want to start with my introduction, because I think the most salient point of who I am and what informs my leadership, my purpose, and my why is that the person that you see before you today is the product of a community college. I am the low-income first-generation daughter of immigrants from El Salvador. And when my parents came to this country, like many immigrants, they wanted a better future for their children. And one of the really neat full circle moments I've had in my life is that I currently serve as the first Latino or Latina president in the 79-year history of Palomar College. And what's so special about that is that when my parents immigrated from El Salvador, it was Palomar College where they went to go learn English. So to be able to serve in this role and serve the community is one of the things that I'm most proud of. So I always really want to put that, because that's a salient identity that I think informs not only my leadership, but what it is that I do. And when I talk about the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, it really comes from a place that's heart-centered. So I'll start with that. As far as let me tell you a little bit about Palomar College for those that are unfamiliar with it. So Palomar College is about 45 minutes north of San Diego. It is one of the largest in size when it comes to area in California. Our service area is, okay, you ready for this? 2,500 square miles. So what you're looking at is we are bigger than the state of Delaware. We serve about 29,000 students, 52% are Latino, about 76% identify as ethnically diverse, and 78% receive financial aid. So that gives you a little bit about our student population. We also have about 1,600 employees. I have a flagship campus in San Marcos, but we also have centers in Escondido, Fallbrook, Rancho Bernardo. We've been very intentional about providing educational opportunities on Camp Pendleton. And I'm very, very proud of the work that we do with our Vista Detention Facility. And we are also working with the Brig on Camp Pendleton, because what we're really trying to do is make sure that we are providing educational opportunities in a very vast arena. Very, very proud of the work that we do with veterans. We have one of the highest veteran populations, and so we're very, very intentional. Palomar is on the map for our military leadership program that helps service members convert some of their work experience into college credit, and we're known up and down the state for credit for prior learning. And again, about 38% of our classes at this point in time are online. So I think that's really important because we are living in a very different world when it comes to the community colleges. As far as my educational background, product of a community college, so changed the trajectory of my life. And when I say that programs like EOPS, I'm a proud EOPS student. I'm very intentional about the support services that we provide students, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. Because of the wonderful experience I had at the community college, it took me quite a while to get through it because I was working at the time too. I had become accustomed to the idea of shelter and food. So I was working full time. And I share that with students all the time because it's not success is not linear, correct? And a lot of times we judge ourselves that it's taking us so long to get through. So it's important for me to say that. I then went on to get a bachelor's degree in liberal studies from CSUSM and then transferred to San Diego State, where I have a master's degree in education with an emphasis in counseling. More specifically, my emphasis in counseling is multicultural competent counseling. From there, I went to Claremont Graduate University, also worked on education as my PhD, and my dissertation focused on achievement and aspiration of community college students. So my commitment to this work has been quite a long time coming. One of the things that I'm really proud and I think really makes me a good candidate for this particular position is that I have had about 20 years of work experience in a multi-college district, San Diego Community College District. And I actually worked at all the different credit colleges, and I finished my career at San Diego Community College District with non-credit. And if you know anything about the non-credit in San Diego, it's one of the biggest. I call it a unicorn because there's not many like it. But I'm very committed to non-credit and the expansion of non-credit because I see how it can be used for equity. So I'm a big believer in non-credit when it comes to that. I also, from that point, the last almost 5 years, 4.5 years, I've been in a single college district, which is Palomar, and I work with the governing board directly. So I've had the opportunity to kind of be in both spaces and really kind of understand what it means to work with the governing board directly, but also in a multi-college setting as well. I also have been very intentional. I'm checking the time too. I've also been very intentional because I think this is really important for you to know, is that I also identify as a faculty member. I have been teaching for over 20 years. I've been teaching. I currently actively teach. I write curriculum. I serve on dissertation committees because I think it really informs me as an administrator to really understand what's happening in the classroom. It keeps me connected to students in a very different way. And so I will stop there because I can keep going and going, but I think we have questions, right? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Dr. Sarr, for that introduction. Okay, so to get us started, and while those questions are coming up, we're going to go ahead and ask the first question, which is, based on what you know about Riverside Community College District at this point in time, what will be your priorities during your first year as our new Deputy Chancellor and Provost?
So for me, it would really be understanding the culture of not only the district office, but all the 3 colleges, understanding the communities that they sit in, understanding the students, understanding the programs, the faculty, having conversations, listening. I'm very much a critical thinker. I take a lot of information in. I'm a little bit of a data wonk. And so I always want to know exactly what it is to take information in. And what I'm always searching for is what is working well. Because we always have a list of things that we can improve, which is fantastic and we need to address. But I'm always looking to see what is working well so we can build upon that success. And I think it's really important as somebody that's coming from the outside, coming in to this culture, to these institutions, is to understand and value the voice of the students and the voice of the employees to make sure that I am understanding correctly. I think it would be a great honor to work with the Chancellor, who has an extremely excellent reputation, is well known. I've had an opportunity to see the work that he's done from, the bond. Wow. Okay. That's a mic drop right there. Right. But just all the good work that has been happening. I know how to play my position, and I would very, very much enjoy learning from somebody who's done such great work and always has put equity at the center of what he does. But most importantly is to gather information. And then as I gather that information, really kind of strategically see in what areas that I can help. You have strategic plans too that I think are important. In my own institution, we finished an educational facilities vision plan that really set the tone of where we're going to be going for the next 12 years. But what I think is also important about that is that sometimes you plan and then a pandemic happens, right? So you always have to have the agility to be able to shift and recognize if something's not working, and not have so much ego to be like, well, this is not working, we're going to stick with it. But actually, how do we get stakeholders to speak, and how do we are able to adjust? So I'll be very honest with you. My first 6 months or so would really be about taking in information.
Okay, thank you for that response. Okay, we have a lot of good questions coming up here. Okay, I'm just preparing you.
Got it.
Okay, our next one is apprenticeship is part of Vision 2030. Have you been working to develop, implement, and maintain apprenticeships programs at Palomar?
Yes, actually, that's one of our focus areas that we've been doing, because we recognize how apprenticeship leads to student success and also helps students that sometimes don't have an opportunity. So what we're not only looking at apprenticeships, we're looking at paid apprenticeships. We think that it's absolutely critical. Because one of the things that we were recognizing is that some students couldn't do the apprenticeship because they were having to be able to work. So we're trying to equitize it. We believe it's something that is extremely important. A concrete example that I've been sharing has been Palomar didn't have a bachelor's program. And so we were able to successfully get a bachelor's program in sustainability. But we didn't stop there. It's not just about getting the bachelor's program and implementing it, but what we're trying to do right now is work with the local industries and workforce where we can provide apprenticeship for these students, but we're looking to be paid apprenticeships. So it's something that we've been doing very, very well, but at the same time recognizing the more apprenticeships that we have and the more relationships that we have with workforce and our community, the better it is for our students. I mentioned this previously. You guys are hearing it for the first time, but the importance of that workforce piece, because what we're seeing right now in the area that I live in, northern San Diego County, the cost of living increase. Folks are struggling just to be able to pay rent. So what we're doing is we're being very intentional on what type of programming that we're doing so that students can have livable wages. And what we're doing is trying to do step-up programs so students can come in, get certification, go out into the workforce, but then opening the door so that they can come back and move on to their next step, because we think that that's going to be critical.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so our next question asks, how do you plan to work with and support faculty across all 3 colleges in our district?
So I think one of the things I'm very proud of is the work that I've done with faculty. At Palomar, we have 10+1+1. I'm very intentional about the work that I do with faculty because I know the critical role that happens inside of the classroom. And I think that's, I was coming up the student services rank as a counselor. And I may have mentioned that I was a student, then I was an adjunct, then I was tenured, then went on to middle management. I was classified professional and also executive management. So I've been able to sit in the different perches and as such. But one of the things, knowing that I was coming up the student services ladder, is that I made an intention to make sure that I understood teaching and that I can speak instruction so that we can bridge those things together so we can support students to be successful with support systems inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom. So some of the things that you will see that I've done at Palomar, we have a professional development center now. You will see that I've had a lot of MOUs with faculty. So for right now, we're doing AI, we're doing different projects, but we always want to have the faculty voice present at that because it's critical. And if you talk about who spends the most times with students, it's most definitely faculty that are there. So making sure that they're supported. And I think, if you look at my history as well, you'll see that I've been very intentional to honor and value the work of part-time faculty. So I'm very excited about at Palomar, we've been working on part-time equity. And so making sure that our part-time faculty, and many times in many places who are teaching the classes, most of the classes have the support systems and feel just as valued. And I know that there is a movement towards one faculty at this point in time, and it's something that I most definitely support. So I can't say enough about that role.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. So we talked about faculty, so let's move on and discuss students.
Ugh.
So here specifically at Riverside Community College, 1 out of 5 college students is a parenting student.
Mhm.
What policies and institutional changes will you advance to support this student population? And not just here at RCC, but also Norco and Moreno Valley.
So I think my experience really comes from when I was a CalWorks counselor and really seeing the efforts and how much sacrifice it was for folks to be at school, also to be a parent at the same time. And how do we build community for them to where that they felt comfortable? So one of the things coming in through the student services ranks is making sure that the support systems are in place so that there is counseling specific for single parents and parents in general, making sure that, for example, our EOPS programs have the resources to be able to help parenting students. And I think really having a holistic view, so when we have events and so forth, we invite the entire family. And so we welcome children on campus. I know, there's sometimes policies around that, so there's a time and space for it. I will tell you my own experience. I literally have pictures of myself at Palomar College. I mean, at like 5 years old, and I remember stepping foot on campus. I didn't understand what my parents were doing, but just that exposure to education made a difference. So for me, it's not only about supporting the parent, but what kind of programming can we do for the children so that they recognize that this is where they belong and that we are making generational change so that a college campus is not something that is foreign to them, but that they feel that they have a place to belong. I think the other important about that is making sure that the resources are there. So when I was at this San Diego College of Continuing Education, we created different centers and then and brought in counselors to work with our parent students. So I would really, really like to see, I'm not familiar with what policy you have here at RCCD, but I'd like to see what that is and what we could do about being intentional, because I think language matters and policies matter, and policies guide our operations. And so I think when you codify it in a policy, it speaks to what the values are. And I truly, truly believe that when you are educating a parent, you are not only changing the life of that person, but all the children that come behind. So I couldn't say how critical it is to give that support system, and in different ways, not just with the counseling, but the resources that you provide and the resources that you provide with dignity. So what I mean by that is at Palomar, we provide things like diapers for free, right? So we have partnered because we know that's a cost for our parents. We don't call it a food pantry, we call it a nutrition center. right? We do menstrual products, right? We created a basic needs hub, right? Because again, we really want to make sure that we know that the success isn't just about intellectual capability. It really is about the support systems to be able to help students move forward. So there's little ways to do it, but I would love to set a tone with policy that says this is what we value.
Okay, thank you. And while we're still on the subject of students, on this specific job description, it does state strong understanding of student services, strategic planning, and academic operations. So how have you learned and taught these understandings? And again, it's of student services, strategic planning, and academic operations.
Well, interestingly, they all kind of go, they all blend with each other, right? They're not just standalone, because when you're going to address something, you are wanting to address it in different ways. So I think you can't speak of one area without speaking to the other area. Because one thing I will tell you, and that I've been very intentional about, is that sometimes as institutions, we spend a lot of time on planning. We do a lot of work on planning, but the operationalization of it is a little bit different. And then there's a third piece to that, is that we have to actually see, does it work? And then how are we measuring if it worked or not? And this is where that data piece is also important, because it's not just the quantitative data, it's the qualitative data to see if it's actually working and not necessarily giving more value from one to the other. So one of the things that I'm very intentional about is about having that student voice at every point. And when we do strategic planning, is really understanding where is it that we want to go, but how are we measuring? So it's the formative and summative evaluation. And again, as I said earlier, sometimes things don't work. So for example, in our student equity plan, right? I won't tell you what institution I was, but our student equity plan, the measures that we were using for success were not accurate because we were seeing a different type of success. So really understanding that piece. But the other part of it too is one is to have the plan, one is how we're going to operationalize it, and the third piece is assessing along the way and making the change necessary. And the other part of it too is that I really believe that your budget and where you put your resources says a lot about your values. So if you are going to create a plan to move in a certain direction, what are the resources that are creating the foundation for it to be successful? And that's the part that I think is really paramount in recognizing. And if you don't have the resources, how do you leverage other resources to actually give it a shot at winning? And the last thing I'll say about this piece is that we already have programs that work. And it's important to, a lot of times we're thinking about what's the new thing. Sometimes we need to step back and invest in what we already know what works. So I'll say enough about that because I know we have a bunch of questions.
We certainly do, and there's a lot of good ones in here. So this one is a little bit open-ended, right? So the question asks, what is your view on external growth opportunities for employees versus outside external recruitment?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm understanding. What are the question is, what are the opportunities externally for
What is your
employees?
view on external growth opportunities for employees? So along the lines of professional development, right? External growth opportunities for employees versus outside external recruitment.
Okay, so I'm going to translate the question is, what are we doing to retain our wonderful, fantastic employees instead of making them have to go somewhere else? So I'll give you an example. I'm very, very proud that at Palomar College, our classified professionals are able to teach. I came from a different district where our classified professionals, once they received their degrees and they wanted to teach, had to leave the district in order to be able to teach. So again, at Palomar, what we're wanting to do is retain that talent. We want to invest in our employees just like they've invested in our students and invested in our institution. So we have, we opened it up about 2 years ago. It's called Edge. It's a space for professional development. But what I really like about it is just not professional development for faculty. It's professional development for all employees. So I think it's really important to make sure that we're creating those spaces to be able to allow people to grow. But once they have achieved a certain status to then be able to provide them opportunities. And so we've done different types of MOUs and such where people can take leave and then, come back because we don't want to lose the employee. And, we've seen it happen, right? Folks move and change in different ways, but we're able to retain that talent because institutions are just building, and what really makes an institution, right? It's not the building, it's the people, and it's the students and employees. We had a recent retirement. This employee had been at Palomar College for 52 years. And in that time, did a lot of excellent work. And so, yeah, so.
Thank you. Okay, I have a good one. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm holding on. I'm holding on.
Okay, so our district has seen its share of strong collaboration and tough conflict between labor and management. How do you personally build trust and work through disagreements with stakeholder groups, especially when we might not see eye to eye?
So I'm a counselor by trade. And I tell everybody who'll listen that I'm a counselor first who plays an administrator. And what I mean by that is that I'm always looking for the win-win. One of my favorite Nigerian proverbs says that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. So one of the things that I do with our constituent groups is to really make sure that they understand that I am a union girl. I have benefited from union. I believe in the ideals of the union, and I understand that working conditions create student learning conditions. And so starting from that point, and then building trust and communicating, we may not always agree on something, but if we can have that level base understanding that our purpose is the same, which is how do we educate our students so that they can go on to live their fullest lives. And so that's where I think it's really important. And I also think that, we have a hashtag at Palomar called Team Palomar. And really what that represents is that we're all on the same team and we're all trying to move in a direction with understanding that educators, we love our students. The other part of it too is that I think I can give you evidence of this, of how I work with unions and constituent groups, is in the last 4.5 years that I've been at Palomar. When I got to Palomar had some challenges fiscally. And when I say challenges fiscally, I'm minimizing what that meant. We are completely in a different place today, and it's something I'm extremely proud of. But also, if you were to use AI, because I'm sure an AI question is going to be up soon, if you were to use AI and you were to put into the search bar, what had been the gains of the unions at Palomar College over the last 4.5 years? It will spit out a long list that I'm very proud of, because it really speaks to how did we balance and do what we needed to do on a fiscal side with the budget, but how did we still honor our unions and honor our employees? So it is possible to find that balance. And you'll see MOUs. I am a fan of an MOU. I'm a fan of a pilot, and if we try it and it doesn't work, okay, here we go. But again, even right now, we have some faculty, we have some MOUs around AI, and accessibility is the other piece that we're looking at. Not because the law is required in April 2026, but because it's the right thing to do for our students. So again, I think there's ways to balance it, but if there is no trust, right, we only move in the speed of trust. And when I first got to Palomar, one of the areas was the budget piece. And folks really, really felt like the district was hiding money, right? And the district was doing this and the district was doing that. So really trying to just open up everything and have those conversations. And also own when the district, there's an issue there. And I'll give you an example. Our constituent groups were really tired of hearing the sky is falling financially, the sky is falling, and then we would end up with a surplus at the end of the year. So we really, really have been intentional. We haven't gotten, it's not perfect yet, but we've been really, really intentional to be as transparent as possible so everybody understands the budget. We have budget meetings twice a month, and they are co-chaired by our CBO. And the co-chair just finished was the president of our CCE, our classified constituent groups. And right now, the co-president is our retiree from our faculty union. So that shows you how we're working on this together because it involves all of us. The well-being of the district is all of our business.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, next question. At Palomar, you stood with DEI. How will you implement that here?
Yeah, so, and at Palomar too, we had DEI and a couple of A's on the end for accessibility and anti-racism. For me, I tell people, how does a fish know it's wet? DEI is such a part of my DNA and who I am in my lived experience and the commitment I've made, not only professionally, but personally. I don't know how to be anything else. I understand what the national climate is right now, but where we are is a moment in time. It's a chapter. It doesn't define the book. And what I have done, considering the climate that we're living in right now, I've gotten real strategic. And what I mean by that is we're going to continue to do the good work. We live in the state of California, which has laws, and we have legislation that will protect some of our most vulnerable groups, and we also have federal laws. So I think I'm getting a law degree without the loans attached to it. But I do think it's very important to stay committed, stay mission focused, purpose driven, and understand that there's a lot of noise right now. And we must remain focused on the work that it is that we need to do because students' lives are depending on that. Doesn't mean I have my head in the sand, but I'm going to use the law. I'm going to use the attorneys, and I am not going to start ripping out support services. And we'll see what happens, right? But the other part of it too is I think being strategic and knowing as a low-income first-generation student, right? When there is a door that's closed, you look for the window that's open. And so part of it is like, okay, how much of my budget is federal funding? How much of this, what happens if TRIO goes away, right? What are my other options? How do I leverage it? And this is where the community is really important. It's really leveraging your resources with other companies and really finding a way to assist. The most recent example I can give you, I think this was like last week when we had the government shut down, some of our veteran students, their housing allowances, they were not receiving. And so we worked with the foundation and we were able to provide some financial resources that our students will not have to pay back just to get them through this momentary time to see as things stabilize. So I always have a plan A. I see the horizon and I'll have a plan B and a plan C because we really have no option but to continue to support students.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. So I heard you mention you have a counseling background. So this next question asks, how do you communicate with your peers, students, and faculty? In what ways will you work with them?
So for me, I'm very humanistic. Carl Rogers, right? Unconditional positive regard. I'm very humanistic in my approach. And I also like to see individuals from in a holistic perspective. So I think it's really important to be able to have that respect, to communicate with each other, try to find a common way forward. I do recognize, though, in my role, there may be a point in time where I'm going to have to make a decision that truly we can all be in agreement with. But I think when people feel heard, when people feel respected, we can even get through difficult times. One of the things that I like to role model is I like to have a life outside of my work life. Anybody who's worked with me, I tell them all the time, number one, I need to role model the self-care. To give permission and allow others to be like, okay, yes, I matter. It's important. My mental health, my physical health is important. And I'm working with someone who recognizes that because I need you to be whole in order to continue to do the work because this is hard work. I think the other part of it is, my cabinet will tell you, I always tell them, have a life outside of work because if not, you will play out your issues of power and control at work. And we don't need that. And I think I try to role model that in the best way possible. I do an exercise with my students. I'm known for it, where I ask them to make a circle and place it on their chin. And if you notice, I placed it on my cheek, right? So most people do this. Very few people do this. And I do that exercise to say, people are not watching, and they're not paying attention to necessarily what you say. They're paying attention to what you do. So I can tell you all day, right? You know, yeah, place it on your chin. But if you see the role modeling, right, then, and then of course you always have those people, folks are, But so again, but it's just really a way to say that your actions speak louder than your words. And I know that I have to role model that, and I have to be a person of integrity to build that trust, and hopefully that works. It's worked for me thus far.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, so our next question states that the deputy provost role takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication as deputy chancellor and provost. So the attendee asks if you have an interest in teaching classes here at the district while you are in this role, and if so, how would you balance both roles?
Realistically, I'm very clear that there's going to be a learning curve, and I'm going to do everything humanly possible to make myself accessible, to be out, to understand really what the community is. So as much as I love teaching, I probably would take a little bit of a hiatus for that so I can focus. I will tell you, for me, it's just not about the teaching. But it's also role modeling uh, the importance of education. So right now, I'm currently getting a certification at the University of San Diego, and it's in neurodiversity, um, neurodiversity and equity, trauma informed. And so approaches, and it's really it's fascinating. It really is. If you ask me, it's the next step in DEIA. And it really talks about our brain, our stress, that connection. So I'm finishing my certification in that. So I would want to finish that off, probably take a hiatus from teaching, really, really focus. I like the idea that I bloom where I'm planted. And then moving on from there. I'll tell you, for me, the opportunity to serve in this role here at RCCD, it would be it would be beyond my wildest dreams. I would truly love to have this opportunity and be very, very committed and stay very, very focused on being the best deputy chancellor possible. So yeah, I understand that sometimes you need to narrow and focus, but yes, I will always go back to teaching because I love teaching.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, so this question is surrounding the topic of interim positions.
Yes.
Okay, so while interim positions often provide professional growth, right, at times they also lend instability and uncertainty to a college's morale and ability for an employee to invest in the overall health of a college. So this attendee is just curious and would like to ask and know, what is your stand, or how do you feel about interim positions?
Yeah, interestingly enough, it can be a double-edged sword, like the attendee is kind of alluding to, um, because you do get an opportunity to learn quite a bit, but also sometimes the vision. It depends. People take different approaches when they're in an interim situations. They may not want to make hard decisions because they're thinking about what the future is. For me personally, I believe doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and things end up working out the way that they need to. I will tell you, for in my experience at Palomar, I've had there was a lot of turnover that was happening. And so we were having some searches that were failing. And instead of banging our head against the wall, right, we said, wait a minute, hold up, let's pull back. An experienced interim, a retiree who has, really has the dexterity and the understanding of what the role needs. Let's bring that person in, stabilize the institution, and then we'll go out for the permanent. So there's value in interim, but I think it really has to be used in a very strategic way. It's one size does not fit all, and it depends on what the situation is when it comes to that. But I will say, if the question is about making difficult decisions when you're in interim, I think it's important to do the right thing at that moment in time, and that you will end up having a reputation for doing the right thing. And you may not end up in that permanent spot, but you will, wherever you end up, you will end up knowing that you had integrity in the process and that you did what was right for the institutions. And at the end of the line, my bottom line always is it what's right for students?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this question is asking a little bit more about you. So, what do students, classified professionals, faculty, and the community at large say about you from Palomar?
Okay, vamos a ver. I think what they would tell you you get what you see with me. I'm a happy soul. And it's been interesting in my professional life. There have been people who have told me that I needed to be a certain way in order to be an effective leader. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is I bring my authentic self, because I can't be anybody else. I think it resonates with student. I think because I told you I'd sat in the different seats, there's an approachability about me that I think really, really helps me. But I also think that folks know that because sometimes people take friendliness as in perhaps being a pushover. So I think I have a real balance and a reputation for being humanistic, personable, but at the same time, will make difficult decisions, will do the right thing. And I would want to be known as somebody who loved students, and the decisions that she made were based on what was best for students, employees, and institutions that will belong here after I'm gone. So planting seeds that will blossom someday that I may not even see, but I would want to hope that I did good. Oh, and then also, I love a challenge. I love puzzles. I love a challenge. And so my brain does very well with that. So when I first was coming to Palomar, like we talked about, we won't stay there too long, but there were some issues there. I get so much joy that I was able to come in and work with individuals that had been at Palomar for a long time and work collectively for Palomar to be in a better place today than where it was 5 years ago. That makes me feel really good that I'm, somewhere that is better because I've been there.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, so this next question asks, it is sometimes difficult to get all three colleges to work together. And I just want to emphasize there's an exclamation mark here, okay?
Okay.
So how would you unite or bring together, right, these different divisions that sometimes happen between managers, classified professionals, and faculty? How would you bring us all together?
And is the question for within the colleges or within the units?
So actually, it's both, a little bit
Okay,
of both,
got it,
from
got
what
it,
I
got it.
understand,
Got
although
it.
it's open to your interpretation.
Okay, yes.
Repeat it.
Yes,
if you
no, we're good. I got it in my brain. So I think one of the things is really understanding and making sure that folks feel valued, because all the different colleges have very different personalities, and they all have something that they value added that they bring to the table. And I think it's really important to recognize that. The other part of it too is, I've been in chancellor cabinet before with presidents and vice chancellors, et cetera, and I understand sometimes the difficulty in the prioritization that has to happen. But what I will say is the transparency in the communication, the relationship building is really important. And if people could understand and trust that today I may not be the first one on the priority list, but the next time I will be. And then also having that really clearly delineated so there's no guesses and surprise. I'll give you an example, a prioritization list that we have for hiring, right? You have different folks that are saying, okay, we need this position, we need this position. So we really try to like formalize that in a way, right? And right now we're really working on the transparency of that. So folks don't have to guess where they are. And so what I would say is really making sure that we recognize the value that each of the colleges bring. And the same with the units that we have, right? With our classified, our faculty, and recognizing everything that is brought, our managers, and making sure that they're getting the support that they need. But again, there has to be a balance of recognizing if there are only limited resources, how we're distributing those resources. But the other part of that, I think that's the most important part of that, is that it shouldn't be um, a single person making those decisions without having the information from the stakeholders. I think voice is really important. And that's when I say, when you're going to make a decision, making sure that you have information. Because there have been times, in my own leadership where I just knew I was right. And I could have very much gone in there and made a decision, especially when there's conflict, right? But what happens at that point, it's more parentalistic, right? Than an opportunity for people to develop relationships with each other, because that's more important. I hate to say this, but senior administrators can come and go, but a lot of time the employees that are there really have to be able to build those relationships so that they can withstand if a senior administrator leaves out of there. The other thing too around my leadership style is, I tell I tell my cabinet all the time, you may have the right to do something, but you always have to ask yourself, what's the wisdom in doing it? And that really has helped me as I move forward. And I think the people and my colleagues, when I role model that, they start to role model that with each other. And at the end of the day, it's about respecting your colleagues and understanding that you're working together for a common purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Okay, so your next question asks, looking over your professional resume and examining the different roles that you've held, what transferable skills will you bring from your current role as president of Palomar to Riverside as deputy chancellor and provost?
Interestingly enough, it's not just out of my professional life, but I will say it's out of my personal life. Resiliency is a quality that I have that has allowed me to reach different heights in different places. And an example I'll give you, I was just talking about this a little bit ago. I'm a martial artist. I love me some martial arts. That is truly that is my thing. And I remember that I wanted to be the Bruce Lee, right? I wanted to be the Bruce Lee. And I remember saying to myself, okay, and at the time, I thought to myself, okay, well, I need to lose a little bit more weight. And, then I'm going to go ahead and go take a karate class. And, and I kept realizing that time kept passing. And I thought, well, shoot, if I really want to do this, I'm just going to have to go out there and be willing to have a white belt mentality, be willing to go out there and be humble enough to know that I needed to start somewhere. And I'm not the best martial artist, but I do got a second-degree black belt in Yamashima Shorin-ryu. Thank you very much. But the reason I say that, because I have a stick-to-itiveness to it. When I see a problem, I'm trying to figure out how to get through it. When things get rough, I stick with it. And I think that has really helped me personally. I think it helped me when I was a student. Again, when that door was closed, I was looking for the window that was open. And then from a professional standpoint, there have been times I've been thrown into professional opportunities where somebody saw something in me before I even had the confidence in myself. And I'm thankful to those people. They said, threw me in and said, swim. And I was like, I'm not sure, but I took the challenge and I was resilient and I had a stick-to-itiveness about that. And I think that served me very, very well. And I'll be honest, this being the first position, am I always going to get it right? Yeah, probably not. But hopefully, I've developed relationships where people can have grace with me, trust that I'm trying to do the right thing, and I will work my tail off, because that has been the formula that worked to get this low-income first-generation kid where she is today, a statistical anomaly. That's the same type of energy I would bring to this position if being so fortunate to get it.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. So those are all the questions that we have specifically here for Riverside City College. So we want to thank you for answering them. So at this time, as we're nearing the end of and the conclusion of the forum, we would like to invite you to give some closing remarks in support of your candidacy for this position.
So I will close. Recently, I serve on several boards, and I was asked to do a keynote, and it was talking about truly leading in difficult times. And so I shared this story that I'll share with you as well, and it's about bees. Yes, I know, bees and beehives. What is she talking about? So in a beehive, the queen bee is an extremely important to the well-being of the hive. The survival of the hive actually depends on that queen bee. So when a queen bee dies, becomes sick and dies, the hive, instead of going into chaos, what happens with the bees is that they start to feed what's called royal jelly. They will take royal jelly, this nutrition, and what they will do is that they will give it to ordinary larvae. And what happens? Through a process, these ordinary larvae become queen bees that are able to then reestablish the hive. The reason I share that is because when I think of community colleges, I think of ourselves as beehives. I think of ourselves as this is where we give folks that royal jelly, quality education, opportunities, the belief in themselves to go on to be queens and kings, be kings and queens, to go out and literally not change their own life circumstance that many times is a circumstance of birth, but are actually able to go out and not only change this generation, but the generations to come. When you think about the work that we are doing in this system where we accept 100% of everybody who gets here, you have no choice but to take pride in that and also to work really, really hard because people's lives are depending on it. So I would very, very much like to be part of your beehive and continue to do the work and provide for this community that royal jelly in whatever capacity that I can. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Dr. Starr. Thank you all for joining us today for your thoughtful engagement. As a reminder, your feedback is essential part of this process. So please share your impressions of the candidate. And please take a few moments to complete the feedback form. As mentioned earlier, this will be provided to the Chancellor as he conducts his final interview and considers each of the finalists. So on behalf of the search committee and the Chancellor, I want to thank you again for your participation and contributing to this process. That concludes today's forum. Thank you.